Israel is one of the most fascinating countries in the world, both geographically and culturally. The birthplace of 5 major religions, including Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. It's become a major travel destination, not just for religious tourism, but for anyone who wants more context behind the belief systems of billions of people in the world today. Now, because of the complex cultural situation, there's going to be some things you want to look out for while you're traveling there. Here are 11 things not to do in Israel. Number 1. Don't be afraid to haggle. Now, this is especially true in the old city of Jerusalem, where vendors will target tourists with exuberantly high prices, knowing that they might pay them. So that being said, almost any price they tell you in a market is open for negotiation. And I've heard stories of people haggling prices all the way from 50 shekels down to 5. So keep that in mind if you want to buy anything there. Number 2. Don't be afraid of soldiers. Israel requires mandatory military service over the age of 18 from both men and women. The conscription lasts just under 3 years for men and 2 years for women, which is largely due to the animosity towards Israel from surrounding states, and from the numerous wars fought against it in the mid-1960s to 1970s. Now, because of those two factors, and isolated attacks being carried out even today, you will see soldiers almost everywhere in Israel, especially in Jerusalem. Though there is a precautionary measure, and to make you feel safer, so you should by no means be afraid of them, and a lot of them will take pictures with you if you ask nicely. Number 3. Don't dress inappropriately. Now, this is mostly for the religious sites that you'll visit while in Jerusalem, and these sites will dictate that men and women dress modestly, covering their knees and shoulders. In some cases, you could be asked to wear a yarmulke, which will be provided for you, and women may be offered a shawl if their outfit isn't up to code. Number 4. Don't talk politics. Now, it's going to seem like I'm contradicting myself because I fully support you having a political conversation with someone in Israel, but what I can't stress enough is that the conversation should be about you learning from their perspective. Because the worst thing you could do, especially as an American, is to tell them what you think they should do or what you think should happen. It just doesn't make any sense. You're there solely to learn about their point of view, and nothing else. Number 5. Don't get scammed. Now, I usually don't recommend tour guides when traveling, because I think there's something to be said about finding your own path and making your own mistakes. Because of how overwhelming the history can be, you'll get more mileage out of the trip if you choose to go with a guide. And tour guides in Israel actually have to go to school for at least 2 years to get their license. So you should always set one up beforehand. Never go with someone who approaches you on the street offering to guide you. And you get the benefit of being able to interact more with locals. Number 6. Always tip. Tipping in Israel is very similar to tipping in the United States, with waitstaff being paid a lower salary, with the expectation that they make that money back in tips. So that being said, whenever you eat out in Israel, always make sure you tip at least 10%. With 15 being an average and 20 if it was outstanding service. Number 7. Memorial Days. These are special remembrance days in Israel, where people set aside 24 hours to remember fallen soldiers and victims of terrorism. The days are called Yom HaZikaron and Yom Ha'atzmaut, and while the date changes slightly year to year, it's usually set in April. Most notably, there'll be 2 sirens, one at 8 p.m. and the next at 11 a.m. the next morning. When you hear these sirens, it's very important that you stop whatever you're doing and you just stand in silence. You'll see the entire country will do the same. It's for them to commemorate the people that made it possible for us to be there today.
To watch what they're doing 3 times.
Number 8. Don't use Uber. Now this is an easy one because Uber actually doesn't exist in Israel. Instead, they use an app called Gett Taxi. And this will always be the cheapest and the safest way to get around Israel. Number 9. Stay on the path. Now this is especially true once you start to get outside of the big cities. And that's because with so many wars having been fought in Israel, there are still various minefields that haven't been cleared. And even today, there are stories of tourists, soldiers, civilians accidentally wandering where they shouldn't and getting into trouble, or even dying. Now, for the most part, you won't encounter this, but on the off chance that you do start to explore, make sure you stay on a signed path.
Either these people were really small or that's not a doorway.
Number 10. Respect their religion. Now, because Israel is such a religious place, you'll encounter a number of Orthodox peoples while you're there, and it's important to respect their traditions. For instance, Orthodox Jews aren't allowed to touch people of the opposite sex. So this means that if they switch seats with someone or move away from you, it's not because they're being rude, it's because of their beliefs. Number 11. Do your own research. Now, I highly recommend that you do as much independent research as possible to hopefully paint the clearest picture about what this place is about. That means looking at Israel from both an Israeli perspective and a Palestinian perspective, and gathering as much information from both as you can. It'll make your trip more meaningful, and the takeaway greater.